Welcome to this special edition of Campbell Speaks. I'm here with my bride today of almost 20 years, and we wanted to share with you some lessons that we have learned in our marriage. You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I've learned that he puts me on the spot. No.
There you go.
So the first lesson is to know thyself,
Mhm.
to know your values, to know what your triggers are, to know what your hopes and your dreams are, and to be able to transparently share those and hold those together, um, so that you can actually partner with each other in this life.
Mm. I love that because I think that one of the things that people don't always keep front and center, especially when they're getting into relationships, is to make sure that they know who they are and what they value, right? What are your non-negotiables? I think that people get into relationships and then try and figure out who they are while also trying to figure out who they're going to become with their partner. I think that it's important that you put in the work on the front end by yourself to figure out who am I, what do I stand for, what do I value, so that when that person who is a would-be spouse, suitor, girlfriend, boyfriend comes along, you're able to kind of know almost immediately that this is the kind of person that I want to spend the rest of my life with. And that's what made it easier for me, and I think for you as well, because we had common values that automatically attracted us, at least to start a friendship, even before we thought about marriage, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think being able to say my life was headed in this direction, and to see where you could fit into that or not fit into that,
Mm.
um, is was made it an easier choice, because it was a hard choice anyways. It is a hard choice to choose somebody that would be a lifelong partner, but knowing where your life is headed to begin with is a
Mm.
good start.
Yes, yes. Um, Lesson number two for me is around growth, that you are going to grow
Mhm.
and always aim to grow together. I think that, and it sounds easy and it sounds like a given, but I think that sometimes a lot of people face challenges in marriages when they're trying to just stay the same and not change as they grow together.
Mhm.
I think that that's what has been important for us, is that we have been able to grow together and actually been able to push each other to grow, right?
Right. I think one of the roadblocks to people growing is when they have a mindset of, this is who I am. You knew who I was when you married me.
Mm,
But, we should be able to adjust,
mm,
to grow, to learn, whether it's go back to school, whether it's do some self-reflection, go to therapy,
mm,
whatever,
mm.
learn a new skill, a variety of ways that we can grow, go back to school, and to be able to do that together and support each other through that. You're going to change. Some of your ideas are going to be different than,
Mm,
or maybe even your values will shift a little bit,
yeah.
but you're doing it together and it's not in isolation.
Yes. Yeah. Growth cannot happen in isolation. I believe that it always has to happen within the context of community, and you are as a couple of that community.
Right.
And I think to go along with that, another lesson that we've learned is learning to adjust,
Hmm.
right? Because I don't think you can change if you're not willing to adjust. And adjustment calls for being able to be selfless most of the time, to give the other person the benefit of the doubt,
Yeah.
and always give each other the room to grow. So adjustment goes hand in hand with growth.
It's
Mm,
funny, not funny. It's odd. In the last couple of weeks, I've had a colleague talk to me who is in a young relationship, and he's um, concerned that his girlfriend's education will change her.
mm,
Well, I would hope it would,
yeah.
but he's also concerned that she won't want to be with him because now she'll be better off on her own without his support. And sometimes when you're in early in your relationship, you feel that way. Like, you're afraid that the other person will become better and will become smarter and they won't want you anymore.
Mm,
They'll find somebody better. But well, the reality that you have to tell yourself is, this person loves me. They
mm,
want me to grow. and
Mhm.
we will be better for it together.
Yeah. And I think that that's what one thing that we have done for each other is that we have pushed each other in education. I mean, when we got married, we were working. You had already a bachelor's, right?
Yeah.
I was working on. I was eventually had to worked on my bachelor's when I was married. We both worked on our master's degrees when we were married, and so we came to this marriage knowing that we will have to grow together. And in order to grow, we would have to make those adjustments and push each other, you know.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really appreciated when we were working together, living together, sharing an office together, was that you were strong at things that I was weak at.
Mm,
But you also pushed me to grow. I hated it back then, but
mhm.
I needed that push where you would say, you would say, did you call so and so? Did you do this? And you would dial the phone, you'd hand the phone to me and walk away. And it was awful because I hated conflict. I hated to have to deal with tough conversations, but I had to do them and I had to learn how to do them. And so you pushed me in that regard as well.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, he's good at this stuff. He can do that stuff. But
And why do I have to do it?
but, it made me a better person in the long run.
Yeah. Um, well, another lesson is on conflict and learning how to fight fair. And I think that one of the biggest things that we have seen, because one of the things that we also do is we help couples. We've done counseling for couples, and one of the biggest things that we see is people not knowing how to fight. And we didn't know how to fight in the
Mm.
beginning. We didn't know how to have productive conflict. Conflict is good for growth, but it's only good if it doesn't leave both of you injured or one of you injured
Mm,
to the point that you cannot, quote unquote, recover from it.
right.
And so we had to learn how to fight fair from the beginning. And for example, if we're having a fight about not doing the chores, for example, there's no need to bring in your mama. You know what I mean? Well, your mama, no, we're not doing that. We're fighting about doing the chores, and let's keep it to that, because the moment that we start bringing in other people and other situations, then we get into the place where we don't have productive conflict.
Yeah, we need to make the main event the main event. We don't
Mhm.
we don't need to be in the weeds. We have to stay right on topic.
Yeah, right on topic, right on task. And what is one of the actually, let me say this. One of the things that I discovered around conflict was that I brought my family's template of conflict to
So
our
did I.
relationship. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. We both brought, and to be fair, that's all we knew, right?
Right.
And so the only example I had of marriage was my parents. And so I and how to handle conflict came from my parents. And so really the way I handled conflict in the beginning was my father's template, which was, and I had to learn over time that that was just his personality. It wasn't, he wasn't really giving me an example to say, son, this is how you should handle conflict all the time. That was just who he was. So I would give my wife the silent treatment, right? Not knowing that my father needed time to process, which I also did. But the silent treatment would be like painful for you.
And that's because of the way that my family handled conflict. They would yell and scream, and then they would say, "Give me a kiss." And we would be move on with life. We would just move on. We wouldn't
Yeah.
address our feelings. We wouldn't talk through anything. We wouldn't resolve anything. We would just get our feelings off our chest and then give me a kiss.
Give me.
I love you.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. So the
Yeah.
silent treatment was painful for me because I thought that we weren't reconnected.
Yes.
And I had to learn to give you space you know to resolve your feelings, even though we had forgiven each other. There were still the feelings that you had to resolve within yourself so that we could fully reconcile.
Yes. And we've had people help us along the way to really work, to really give us ideas and templates on how to
Yeah.
really handle conflict. And maybe we can talk about that at some other time. Maybe do a whole thing around conflict and just maybe invite a guest to come and talk about conflict,
Mhm.
um, etc. But what other lesson do you think you have learned? Or maybe let me ask this question, because I think there's a lesson here. You're now a mother.
Mhm.
I'm a father. Um, and how do you think parenting has changed you?
I think that, again, once you have children, you have to readjust. You know, you
Mhm.
have to adjust your priorities, you have to adjust how you spend your time, you have to adjust roles and responsibilities. And being a parent should be the most selfless thing that you do, but you should also be each other's backup, you know.
Mhm. Yeah,
Tag, you're it. I need
tag
help,
it.
you know.
Yeah.
And I think that that is something that has to be, you have to find a balance. You know, there are seasons where, for example, we talk about how you get peopled out and
Hmm.
you need some time to recover when you come home from work. Um, and sometimes I feel like I'm on my own, but I also know that you're not beneficial to us
Hmm.
if you don't have that time. So being able to know that about each other and being able to tag in and tag out and help each other in that raising of a child who is
Hmm.
completely dependent on
Depending on
you,
it. Yep.
is really something that is important in a healthy family.
Yeah, I think that the one lesson that being a dad is really teaching me, and I'm still learning this. I don't think I've learned it. Is to always be mindful of what I do and say because there's a little person who's watching what I'm doing and saying, and he's going to reflect that back because he is he has never lived before,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
This is his first shot at life, and so he is learning from us. He is learning from me as a dad, the way I talk to his mom, and sometimes I have to correct him, like, you don't talk to our girl that way, especially when he's upset, and I have to model for him what it even looks like for mommy and daddy to have conflict. We don't He doesn't know what conflict looks like. And so sometimes we can be having fun. Maybe I'm tickling her and she's laughing because she's got this loud, squirrel. Right? When she laughs
Squeal.
and we get a squeal. And he would think, this is a big fight. Like, no, we're having fun. He doesn't really get what conflict looks like.
Where we
And
could be talking passionately about a
oh yes,
topic and
yes.
he says, "Stop talking, stop fighting,"
Stop
because he
fighting.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know what conflict really looks like for mommy and daddy to really fight. And I think it's testament to what we have learned over time on how to handle conflict because we didn't have our child early on in our marriage. We were like 12 years in when we had him. And I think that one of the other lessons, and I think this may be the last lesson that we'll throw in, at least for today, is that when kids come into the picture, you lose something that you had together as a couple. The connection
Mm,
changes. And I think we were sitting one day and you know, we realized that we had to grieve
mm,
and mourn over the relationship that we used to have because, again, here comes change, here comes growth, here comes adjustment with another person added to the equation.
yeah.
And we celebrated the fact that he's in our lives, but we also had to come to terms with the fact that we no longer have what we used to have,
Mhm.
right? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it's a sense of loss
Hmm.
because your normalcy is no longer normal.
Hmm.
You have to create a new normal and you have to navigate that together. What does that look like? Because you can't just get up and go. You can't um you have to juggle the midnight feedings and
Hmm.
all of that. Um and it changes you. It changes
It
you.
does.
The freedom to get up and move is not there anymore.
Yeah. So those are the few lessons that we have learned from our marriage. I don't know if you have any last words for the people out there. Please do us a favor. If you have any questions, if you have any additions to this conversation, maybe things that you have learned, put them in the comments below so that maybe we can make videos out of this. I'm already thinking of like, there's a whole conversation we can have around, for example, mixed marriages, because we're a
Mm,
mixed marriage. What did it take for us to get to where we are, what challenges did we face, et cetera, et cetera. And there's so much that we can talk about in terms of what we have learned the last 20 years of our marriage. But I don't know if you have any last words for the people out there.
I would just say that reiterate that growth doesn't happen in isolation. And while it's important for you to be each other's community, your community should be bigger than the two of you. So
Yes.
Campbell did allude to people who spoke into our marriage and into our lives. And you want that. You want people to be able to correct and redirect and to give you perspective and give you tools.
Hmm.
And so don't be ashamed if you don't have it all together because nobody does. You're learning. We're all a growth in progress.
Hmm.
We're
Hmm.
all he's still working on me.
Hmm.
And don't be afraid to reach out.
Yes. Uh, yeah, what she said.
Ask for help.
Ask for help. And that is like the biggest lesson that we have learned, just ask for help. If you cannot get help, if you feel like you're at a place where you're not getting through to each other, ask somebody else to come in and help you out. The last word for me is just know yourself. Get first of all to be very clear about who you are, why you're here, where you're going, and how you're going to get there. Be the person that is complete, so to speak, um, so that when your partner
Mhm.
comes in and your would-be spouse comes to join you, they're coming to join a person who knows who they are and what they really stand for and the things they will never compromise on.
Right.
But again, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section. If you have any suggestions for topics that you would like to see in this format, please let us know and have a great week.
Bye.